Hey, good morning. Welcome back to another video. Thanks for checking it out. I have fixed my mistakes. Well, I should. I didn't fix it. I just brought it away and somebody else fixed it for me. But it got fixed. So, cylinder heads, they are now decked and looking nice and clean. So, very excited to have a fresh surface on here. Looking good. So we are reset. Now I am going to get my install height micrometer. I'm going to check the install height on all these valves for the valve springs, so I know where they're sitting at, and then I can bust out the valve springs and I can check our spring pressures on the seat as well as on for open pressure. So I'm going to get started on that and get these heads set up. Once I have them set up, I'm going to final clean them and assemble, and then we'll be ready to bolt these things onto the block. Okay, I have been working on these cylinder heads here. I got, we'll call it cylinder head number 1 completed. Here are spring pressures on the seat. This one actually ended up being our lowest. 165 on the seat there, 170, 170, 170, 173, 175, 170, 170. So we're right around that 170 pound mark there on the seat. And then open pressures, my lowest is 422 and my highest is 430. 437 looks like it's my highest. Got 2 of them there. So a little bit of a spread, but not terrible. I've definitely seen worse. And then coil bind, my tightest couple springs, looks like I'm at 50 thou on my tightest springs. So this head is good. I just need to take these off, take out my shims, and then I need to just lap them, just real quick lap, and then wash, and then I can install. So it's going well. On the second head right now, I had to go grab some shims just to make sure I can get the clearance where I want it. Now, the valve springs, these guys, the 5845, they're supposed to be installed. Hang on, sorry. Alright, so the 5845 for the Performer RPM heads, we're looking at 150 on the seat, installed at a 1.8 for the install height. I am installing these suckers a lot tighter than that. I'm at 1750-ish is where I'm sitting at, depending on my spring pressure. The springs are actually quite inconsistent from each other too, so I have had to change my install height on some. Like look at this one, 1772. So that's why the seat pressure is a little less on that one, but my open pressure is already 430. And then I get into coil bind at 50 already. So if I had a little more room on the coil bind side, I would shim this a little more to get this closer to 170, but my coil bind is holding me back on that. But I mean, the rest of them like 1750s. So I'm about 50 thou tighter than what it's supposed to be. So I'm getting a little bit more pressure on the seat than it says here at 150. But the reason I did that is because the open pressure says it's supposed to be 420 at 580 lift. Whereas at 580 lift, at a 1.8 install height, I do not get 420 pounds. These springs are definitely weaker than they're advertised, which is unfortunate. But this day and age in the aftermarket world, I mean, what do you expect, right? So if I would have just thrown them on, I would have probably been a little weak on the open pressure side, as per Howard, okay? Howard's cams. So that is why I'm shimming them tighter, getting them like 50 thou tighter in some cases, so that I can achieve at least 420 pounds, which they're rated for. But I actually want to be like 430 or better. I got one that's 422, but it's right there. So yeah, unfortunate, but you know what? It is what it is. I had to get some shims just to tighten that gap up, and it put me a lot closer to coil bind, which I'm okay with. I'd like to, 50 thou is a little tight maybe, but I think it'll be okay. I've been told you get better valve spring control if you can get her a little closer to coil bind versus sitting at 100 thou to coil bind, you know, something like that. So that's what I'm doing anyway. So really, what I'm doing, I got my shims under here, my locator cup there. I get my micrometer on, put my retainer on, put some keepers in there. See if I can do this for you. Okay, one. Okay. And we get this thing tightened up. I gotta put the camera down and tighten that up, I'm sorry. So in this case, this one's sitting at 745. So 1.745 inches is the height on this one right now. So next I'm going to take this height and I'm going to mimic that in my scale so I can see what the seat pressure is going to be. So let me see if I can do that for you here too. Alright, so our micrometer is set to where it was on the install height. There we are. And then I'm going to go ahead and set 0. Apparently it's a little bit difficult to do with two hands to see where I'm at. Alright, there we go. And we'll grab a spring. I'll make sure these things sit pretty tight, so I'm going to make sure it's seated on the center. There we go. Now, I'm actually just going to bring this thing right to coil bind. There it is, just so I can make sure it's seated. I'll zero our gauge. And I do calibrate this gauge before I use it. So I'm going to get us to our install height, which is right there. So we are sitting at 170 pounds there. Okay, 170 closed or on the seat. Now, okay, so we're back to where we are on the seat right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 500 thou, and then 80 lift is what I'm going for. So 580, so right there. And that puts us at 400, just under 425 pounds on that one. So like 423-ish or so. Right, so now we got the open pressure figured out. Now I just want to see where coil bind is at in compared to our max lift. So right there's our max lift at 580. So we are, oops, sorry. I don't know if you saw that. Let me just do that again. So there's our max lift right there. And there's coil bind. So we're about 90 thou on that spring of clearance to coil bind, which is interesting. These springs have been so erratic. I've been doing this with one hand here. I'm just going to double check my math over here and make sure I didn't misstep anything. I'm just going to double check it all, verify it, because 90 thou coil bind height and the 1750, that's the loosest I've seen so far. So let me just double check that and I'll get back. All right, so I just redid it here, and yeah, I was actually off a little bit. I re-zeroed my height and just did a once over on it, and it was a little off. So I was actually 170. I gotta update that, 170 and 430 open, and then my coil bind was actually 70 thou. So we're good there. But I mean, I don't know if that's normal, guys, but you know, 50 thou coil bind is the tightest I've seen. And the loosest I'm at is 70, looks like. Yeah, so I mean, we got 20 thou variance on our coil bind. I guess that's not terrible. I guess depends what you want to compare it to. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and just finish up the rest of these. This one is good to go, so I'll move on and put our shims in and our cups, locator cups there, and we'll keep it going. Okay, so I was going to do a little bit more filming on the assembly part of the cylinder heads, but time got away on me, and you know, Uncle Johnny swung by, cleaning some parts for him. He helped me out a little bit, and I didn't record it. Guess I got too distracted. It's no excuse. But anyway, I'll show you where we're at. Here we are. The heads are assembled. And looking good. Everything came out nice. So, yeah, we're ready to move on. I don't know what else there's to say. The video is going to be probably a shorter one, and I'll just leave it at that. But now that the heads are done, ready to go, valve spring pressure is good on the seat. It's good open. Coil bind height is good. Tightest is 50 thousandths of an inch there. Cleaned up, lapped the valves. They're good to go. So now I'll get the block prepped on that side, and I'll continue on this build. But I don't know. I seem to like doing the shorter videos lately. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You tell me. But in the next one here, we'll get these cylinder heads on. We'll get the lifters put in, and yeah, shoot, we'll just keep on going. But for now, thanks a lot. See you on the next one.